Good morning. I know what you're thinking. Jockeys? Boxers? Or nothing at all? Sadly, given the nature of these dignity gowns, the naked truth will be revealed about that today. But I wear it for a very specific reason. And that is simply this. I want to share with you the extraordinary miracles that can occur in it when kindness, caring, and compassion are present, and the extraordinary harm that it can hide when they're not. Now, I have a confession to make. I'm an addict. I am an adventure junkie. It has, unfortunately, with a little bit of clumsiness, landed me in a ridiculous amount of hospitals, ERs, and doctor's offices for more things than you can remotely imagine. Started at the age of 5, when my sister dared me to prove that I was, in fact, Superman's son, as I claimed, by leaping off of the second-story landing down to the bottom of the stairs. I flew to infinity and beyond. My landing, not so good. I woke up in the first of 1,000 hospitals in a thick, white body cast with a clavicle broken in 3 places and a severe concussion. And no pun intended, it has been all downhill physically since then. I have broken nearly a dozen bones. I've had my thumb pulled off. I've had my toe amputated. I've had more infectious diseases and infections than I can remotely remember. I've been hospitalized in 6 different countries. You don't want to travel with me. But here's the good news. Through all of that, I've had extraordinary care. And that's why I'm still alive today. No kidding. So, as I was growing up, my parents taught me one single lesson, and that is treat people like you'd like to be treated. Simple, not easy. During all of my medical things, obviously, for survival, I started paying very close attention not only to what people were doing to me medically, but also how they were doing what they did to me. The truth of the matter is, my doctors and nurses in whom I entrusted with my life were my idols. Were my idols. They never, ever, ever let me leave their offices without feeling equally well cared for and cared about. It was just what I expected, till my world blew up. I have had an extraordinarily good life. You see, to the outside world, I had it perfectly. I owned a studio, movie studio in Hollywood. I was a successful producer. I was married to the love of my life for 25 years. Big house, great cars, status, everything. Overnight, my partners embezzled several $million. I was locked off the studio lot. I was locked out of my 6-figure salary. I was locked out of my career and locked into 2 extraordinarily expensive lawsuits that I had to file in order to try to recover what they had stolen. Overnight, I literally found myself working 18 hours a day to try to make ends meet. It was incredibly stressful. Lost my house, lost my brain, and it put my marriage on the rocks. And just when I thought life couldn't get any worse, I went to my ENT for a routine allergy test. You know where this is going. 3 hours later, I emerged allergic to grass, not good for a golfer, and with stage 3+ throat cancer that had spread to my lymph nodes. I couldn't believe it. I immediately started 3 months of chemo, followed by 7 weeks of radiation. Now, I think I'm a pretty tough guy. I've been through a lot of pain in my life. All of those hospitals in my youth, I've been through a lot of pain. However, I thought I could handle cancer. No big deal, right? Wrong. Cancer kicked my butt. Knocked me down, laughed at me, let me up, knocked me down, and laughed again. Every single day, I was filled with extraordinary 24-hour-a-day pain. I had open sores in my throat and in my mouth for months. I couldn't eat. I lost 60 pounds. Swallowing anything was like swallowing broken glass. I had numbness in my hands and feet. I had chemo brain, constant migraines, dizziness, and fatigue that kept me in bed for months at a time. And again, right when I thought life could not possibly get any worse, guess what? I was admitted to a hospital with a life-threatening infection at the site of my port. It was the hospital from hell. I wasn't there 5 minutes, and I saw this. Look on the right. Dead flowers. Dead flowers. Seriously, I've got cancer. I've got a life-threatening infection. The last thing we want to see as a patient is dead anything. If they can't keep those alive, what are they going to do with me, right? Well, got worse. Yeah, right, exactly. I was bold as a cue ball. That wasn't mine. Now I'm thinking, if they don't pay attention to this stuff, what are they going to do for me? I got very, very, very scared. There was this snooty nurse who came in and out of my room, never knocked. Finally, I said, "Excuse me, but would you mind knocking?" You know what her answer was? "You know, most people prefer that we don't." Well, excuse me. So if I'm in this gown, it means I can't get the slightest bit of respect from you? Apparently not. She never knocked. There was the housekeeping woman who came into my room every single day for 2 weeks. Never introduced herself, never made eye contact, and never spoke to me. It was like I was invisible. We had no connection whatsoever. Then there was the impatient, hurrying doctor who had been assigned to remove my port where the infection was. As he's doing the procedure, I screamed out in pain and asked him to stop. You know what his answer was? "Hang on, I'll have it out in a second." It wasn't a second. It seemed like hours. And by the time he was done, I was soaked in sweat and completely terrified. I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel cared about at all. I called my doctor and I said, "You got to get me out of here. These people are going to kill me." He said, "I'm a little busy today, but I'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock to get you out." He showed up at 10 o'clock the next night. Too late to get me out, costing me an extra $10,000 for the day, and expressed not one single word of apology. Amazing. And then I got this. It's my thank you note, literally. It's in a used envelope that they whited out. My name is spelled Tomlinson. They had misspelled my name. Oh, and one more little thing. Apparently, in my fentanyl-induced craziness, they had surgically turned me from a Mr. into a Mrs. I didn't know what had happened. I did not know what happened. I could not have felt less cared for. I assumed that I was reasonably well cared for medically, but I felt not a bit cared about. It was as if I had gone from a living, breathing human being with hopes, with dreams, with a family, with a career, into nothing more than an aging white male with cancer and a life-threatening infection in 2215. I was heartbroken. I was terrified. And I gave up. I gave up. I decided that I wanted to die. I could not handle it all. And I had a brilliant thought. If I could somehow commit suicide and make it look like an accident, my family could collect on a gigantic Keyman life insurance policy I had at the studio. A perfect parting gift. So I left the hospital. A couple days later, a doctor buddy of mine came to visit just to hang out. And I decided to let him in on it and ask him how to do it. He did an amazing thing. I talked for an hour straight. Hard to do, given what was going on in my throat from the radiation. He sat and he gave me his undivided attention for an hour. He never, ever interrupted me. He never judged my decision or me for making it. And then he did a very profound thing. He apologized. He said, Lee, I am very, very, very sorry for what happened to you. It is inexcusable. And he said, you know what? Maybe even worse is it's not uncommon. In today's medicine, we value revenue, money, more than we do care and compassion. And you know what? It's getting worse. He said, as I see it, you have two options. Number one, you can commit suicide, become a statistic, and become part of the problem. Or you can fight, you can live, and if you succeed, you can do something to reverse that. He said, you're a C-level executive. You've been a patient all your life. You know the medical system from the patient's side. He said, you're a great communicator. He said, you can do this. You can make a difference so that nobody ever has to experience what you experienced. And in that moment, he literally changed my life. He gave me a reason to live, and he increased my willingness and my will to live and fight. So, I began to study the subject of compassion and the medical industry deeply. I interviewed thousands of doctors and thousands of patients to find out what about this thing from compassion. And you know what I found out? The compassion is enormously more powerful than just the ability to make someone feel good in the moment. Turns out that for the patient, when they're treated in a compassionate environment, it strengthens their immune system. It decreases their physical pain. It decreases the chances of them getting depressed and lowers their anxiety. It magnifies their will to live. There is no downside. It's absolutely life-giving. Who knew? Who knew? And guess what? The power of compassion, giving it, gives you the exact same benefits as the patient gets. How good is that? Who knew? Oh, and there's one more thing. It's great for business. Really. Happy patients recommend their friends. Happy patients stay loyal. Happy patients write great reviews, which raises your HCAP scores and gets you more money. How cool is that? It's good for me, it's good for you, and it's good for the business. But now I was really confused. I'm thinking, knowing that, why would anybody in the medical profession not give compassion freely, openly, and every 5 minutes? Why would anybody? Then I discovered this. By a factor of 100%. Now I began to get it. Why? Why? Why is that so? Think about it. People in medicine every day deal with life, deal with misery, deal with pain, deal with suffering, deal with grief every day. They are responsible for the life and death of their patients 24/7. They do something wrong, somebody dies. They do everything right, and people still die. There's an emphasis on seeing way too many patients in too short of a period of time. They work ridiculous hours, and they get too little respect and appreciation. And what happens if they don't manage that unrelenting stress? They get angry, they get frustrated, they get impatient, they get hurried. And if they don't manage that, they get sick, they self-medicate, they commit suicide, or they burn out emotionally and quit. Or worse, they burn out emotionally and continue to practice when they are absolutely incapable of giving us the compassion we need. All of a sudden, my hospital experience made sense. These weren't bad people. No, I'm sure there were very compassionate healers who were simply so overwhelmed by the stress of their job and their unwillingness to care enough for themselves, to give themselves the power of compassion to heal their own wounds. Wow. Wow. Now I actually felt compassion for them and for their pain. So, here's the naked truth. You thought it was about boxers or jockeys. It's not. Hurt people in any business. And the only way that'll change is if medical professionals, and everybody else for that matter, puts themselves first and gives themselves compassion to heal their wounds. And only when that happens can we as patients move from being a number, being a disease, being an aging white male in 2215. What'd you expect, hatchets? And become the fully functioning human being that we actually are. And that's when I realized that I needed to start a compassionate care movement. You see, it's very simple. The power of compassion is irresistible. it literally has the exact same benefits for the giver as the receiver. And it is made up of 4 single factors. Number 1, you need to connect. As my doctor friend did by giving me his attention. He absolutely paid attention to me. And he was respectful. And he was expressive. So if you, in fact, want to be compassionate to yourself or to anybody else, you need to connect, you need to be attentive, you need to be respectful, and you need to be expressive and give us the gift of your true feelings. And when you do, we call it the C.A.R.E. effect. We call it the C.A.R.E. effect. So in our movement, we have one goal, and that is to inspire healthcare professionals to put their own needs first, to love themselves enough to deal with their own pain and suffering so that they can be healthy enough to give us the compassion we need to heal. And then, once healthy again, to challenge those healthcare professionals to give one more compassionate act a day, every single day, for 365 days. Just one, just little thing. Doesn't have to be big. It's like the fellows when I was walking up here today. I'm walking down the street, looking a little lost. 2 guys in a golf cart pull up. They stop and they go, "Do you know where you're going?" No. I told them, they directed me, and they went on their way. They were Eli Lilly employees. They didn't know me from Adam. They literally showed me that they cared. They connected. They were attentive to my needs. They were respectful. And they expressed their truly joy at being able to help me. That's the C.A.R.E. effect. So the challenge is, think about this. If everybody in this room were to take that challenge, that would be 146,000 additional, more compassionate acts in the universe. That's pretty powerful stuff. But get this. What about if all 40,000 Lilly employees were to take that challenge? One tiny compassionate act a day more than normal. That's 14.5 million more kind, caring, thoughtful, compassionate acts in the world today. But what about this? What if together we took on all 14.5 million medical professionals in the United States? And what if we got them all to commit to one more compassionate act a day? No more than that, just one for 365 days. That's 4.6 billion additional kind, caring, thoughtful, compassionate acts in the world. Think that might save a life like it did mine? I'd bet on it. That might change the world. So here's my question for you. Are you willing to treat yourself or anybody else in the way you'd like to be treated if you were stuck in that horrible gown? Once more a day, every day, for 365 days. Take it from me. The naked truth is, compassion is profoundly important. I am alive today because of it. So if you're willing to take the challenge, raise your hand and join me. Thank you.